Can he remember Dolores? Can he remember the choice he made?
We're no strangers to love.
Yeah, that's as much as I can stomach. Make it go away. Make it stop.
Welcome to Cordkillers. Our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord cutting revolution so you, my friends, have the information you need to be able to watch what you want, when you want, where you want, on whatever device you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Brian Disappointment. I'm walking disappointment is what I am. That was what we got all pumped up about. I'm sure it sounded cuter when they made it and shot it and developed it and did it. And then Jonah, or I'm going to call him Joe No from now on, Jonathan Nolan, Joe No, decides to casually drop, oh yeah, we're giving away spoilers. Psych. Here's a meme from the year that Scam School launched in 2008.
What has taught me is never to believe, in other words, Jonathan Nolan ever writes again.
Unlike our previous opinion, which was maybe we should stop believing Joe No. His name's Joe No. It's right there in his name.
Joe No believe what I'm going to write on Reddit. I will, my mom taught me if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. I will say Angela Serafian plays a lovely piano, and Evan Rachel Wood has a lovely singing voice.
I'm just going to say that it was my theory from the beginning that the piano was the bad guy the whole time, and now we know it. Now we know the piano's the worst guy.
Well, thankfully, we have someone to help us get over our shame and disappointment. Joining us for this show, welcome my own co-host from Daily Tech News Show, Sarah Lane.
Huzzah! Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me back on.
Thank you so much for joining us. Where do you land on the 2007 meme of Rick rolling someone in the 21st century?
Well, where do I start? First of all, not funny anymore. Second of all, Westworld sucks. Third, Evan Rachel Wood used to date Marilyn Manson. So let's just keep everything in perspective.
That's true.
Wow. These are all true facts. Well, I mean, I don't think Westworld sucks, but you thought Westworld sucked before any of this Reddit malarkey, right?
Oh, yeah. No, the Rick rolling is like, okay, whatever. Obviously you weren't going to spoil the entire second season, and I will watch it. And I think that the show is, interesting. But I hate watched it.
I'll tell you what, like by the end, I hate watched the first season, and we've talked about this on the show. Everybody who watched it, binging it, loved it, and I think that's a pacing thing. But I got to tell you, after this experiment, I am more resistant to watching season 2 of Westworld. I can't believe I'm saying that.
You can say it's like what is it called when you're being childish? Whatever that's called.
Being childish. Oh yeah,
peevish, whatever. I am legitimately less excited for Westworld after that.
Well, it feels like, look, are you trying to train us to not give you trust to artistically guide us through an experience? I don't know. I feel like something was taken away from me.
Yeah. But whatever. It's the internet. It's all fairs on Reddit, right? You can say whatever you want.
Sure.
I mean, we're talking about it, so they did something right.
There you go. We're going to talk about Sarah Lane's experience with YouTube TV in a little bit, but let's start with our primary target. Oh, Netflix. Remember a year and a half or so ago when their subscriber numbers just kind of flattened out and everyone was like, this is it. It's the end for Netflix. Well, Netflix reported an increase of 7.4 million subscribers in Q1 for 2018. That's almost 2 million in the U.S., still growing in the U.S., and the rest international. Analysts had expected an increase, but a 6.2 million increase, so they beat analysts' expectations. Netflix increased original programming by 85% from a year earlier to 483 hours. They're spending, I think the estimate is this year, $8 billion or so. They now have 125 million subscribers, Granted, that's a worldwide number, but it is more subscribers than cable has in the United States, just as a matter of comparison. And Comcast is now bundling Netflix into its cable subscriptions. We've talked before about Netflix being available on the Comcast X1 boxes. We even had a whole controversy where we were like, should they be doing this? Is this right? Turns out nearly 50% of X1 customers actively use Netflix on their boxes, and there are 52 million Comcast customers not signed up to Netflix through their service. So that's an open market for them to keep adding these numbers, Brian.
What does this mean in terms of, I mean, let's dial the Wayback Machine to 5 years ago when they were talking about spinning off the DVD by mail service and calling it Quickster, and the stock had completely tanked. Is there something about this vertical nature of building everything in-house? Are we looking at a commodification of incredible artistic talent? And like, they're so powerful at this point, it's tempting for me to want to make Netflix be some kind of bad guy in my mind. But they keep being excellent stewards of all the properties that they're dealing with. I guess what I'm feeling reminds me an awful lot of my confused feelings that I had after Disney took over Marvel. And now we're on the other side, 10 years later. It's like, no. They're excellent stewards. They know how to make properties and they tie things together, and good. I'm glad that they bought Star Wars. I'm glad that they bought, all these other properties. Yeah. I'm feeling very confused right now, Sarah Lane, about my Netflix philia. Are they just the best and we should just love the bomb, or what?
It is sort of a Cordkillers walking in reverse, isn't it? It's Comcast now saying, hey, don't kill the cord. We'll put Netflix into your bundle. How's that sound? I mean, to me, that sounds fine. If for whatever reason you have a certain amount of money and you really like Netflix, but didn't want them to be separated. I love Netflix, particularly because of the Joel McHale show, which is The Soup coming back to life. I don't know if you guys watch it.
Sure.
It's real funny. But the whole idea with Netflix is I can't tell you the last time I went through my Netflix library looking for some old crap movie that is in the library. It's all about original content, and not everything is a slam dunk for me, but I think it's the best of the best out there. So that's what Netflix is writing off of. People respect Netflix for being, it's the VOD service to beat. And I guess for some time.
I guess the surprise to me is we knew that what they wanted to do is disrupt the traditional model of distribution. What I did not expect is for them to so successfully, so powerfully, so unambiguously disrupt the model of quality curation and creation, right? They basically said, we're just going to throw all the money and hire all the best people, and we're going to be bigger than NBC and CBS and even HBO. I never would have believed that, and yet here we are at this moment.
I think Netflix their genius is they don't think of themselves the same way that people think of them. They think of themselves as what they want people to think of them next. Right. So their one mistake, which you always bring up and everyone will till their dying day, is, yeah, but what about Quickster? And that was the one time where they tried to do something backwards, where they said, let's get rid of something old. Let's ditch the dead weight. And they misread the room. The rest of the time they're saying, hey, what people don't realize is, yeah, it's cool to stream the movies you rent from our DVD service, but that's not going to last. We need to get ahead of that. Let's start doing original content. Let's do House of Cards. And people said, well, that's weird. Why are you doing that? Then people loved House of Cards, and Netflix became the place with House of Cards, but also old TV shows. And Netflix said, well, we're not going to keep the old TV shows forever, so let's start making a lot of our own TV shows. And people said, well, how are you going to keep making House of Cards? And then they made Stranger Things. And then they made whatever your favorite is, the Joel McHale show. And they just keep throwing money. And people are like, oh, well, so Netflix is now the place with great original shows, but also bad movies. That the next thing that's going to happen is Netflix is going to come out with a movie finally that everybody goes, oh, but what about that movie? And Netflix will complete the transformation into, we are just HBO. We are just a channel that has great original programming, and being on the Comcast box makes perfect sense there for Netflix, because they're like, hey, we want to be right next to HBO as an alternative choice. And Comcast wants to have leverage with HBO to say, well, we've got Netflix, our subscribers won't be totally left out if you don't agree to our terms.
Well, and the weird part is going back to the Quickster days, and I don't know why it's so fun to pick on that low point,
because it's one of the few things where you're like, yeah, you really screwed up that one time.
But here's the funny part: is their impetus was correct. Like, it was the right idea. It was very future focused, forward thinking. That they're like, nobody's gonna want dumb physical media by the mail. We should spin that out. Our brand isn't called DVD by Mailix. It's called Netflix, because we want to deliver movies over the internet.
And honestly, what they've done is exactly what they wanted to do with Quickster. They have spun the DVD thing out into its own product. They just don't call it Quickster. They call it Netflix still.
It's a DVD.com.
Yeah.
A Netflix company.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
DVD.com. How about that?
And they didn't make a big deal about it. They didn't have a funny name. And they just kind of quietly did it a year later when nobody was paying attention.
Well, we've talked about this certainly on DTNS, and I know you have on Cordkillers as well. Is Netflix and HBO are basically indistinguishable from each other, right? I mean, they're the closest competitors I can think of.
Well,
unless you were saying
certainly
like HBO
they're
and Showtime.
occupying the same niche. They're both going for powerful quality. In other words, like back in the late 90s, before cable programs were available for Emmys, back when it was the Cable Ace Awards, HBO was like, well, screw it. We're just gonna buy the best, and we're gonna have all the awards, and we're gonna be the known for the quality, and those will be our loss leaders that will justify people. Like, you can't not sign up to HBO. And Netflix, we've watched them for the last 5 years, played the exact same playbook.
Yeah, and if there's a difference between Netflix and HBO, it's scale. They have a wider back catalog. They've licensed more things. HBO doesn't really license old television shows. Netflix still does. They also are worldwide, whereas HBO is mostly in the U.S. and has some international presences, but it's not literally worldwide. I mean, Netflix is in almost every country. That's about it. That's that's the differences right there. And when Comcast goes to strike their deal with HBO, as I mentioned, in the US, they'll be able to say, well, we've got other options. It's not just Stars anymore. We also have Netflix. And that goes back to you, Sarah, where a lot of people in the US particularly view them side by side. It's HBO Now or Netflix or both. They're similar offers. Totally.
Well, yeah. And I mean, you're paying what, $100 a month for a cable package, lots of stuff that you're not watching. What's this Netflix stuff? House of Cards, Stranger Things. I've heard lots of things about this. It's just a great incentive to keep people from bailing on what's still like way too expensive, and going to Netflix and cutting off the rest of it.
Well, folks, let me tell you, there is an even more valuable pound for pound option for your entertainment than Netflix or HBO, Brian.
No, that's a true fact. And when we say pound for pound, we're not talking power by volume or by weight. We mean actual punches. Punch for punch is what we mean when we say pound for pound. Destroying poor values is what we do here at Cordkillers. And you can support us by going to patreon.com/Cordkillers. That's where you can join the nearly 1,500 other independent people keeping us loud, live, and right here in your faces every single week.
There are 7 of you right now who are saying, oh, right, I need to do that. I've got an extra $1. I want to support Cordkillers. I want to make sure it keeps loud, live, and independent, like Brian always says, but I keep forgetting. And today is the day you don't forget. Today is the day that you 7 go to patreon.com/Cordkillers, pledge $1 or more, and push us right back up over 1,500. And we thank you in advance.
Yeah, and let me just remind you guys, like, you will never, ever, ever feel the $1 per episode pledge that you make. You will forget about it for years and years, and you'll look down, you're like, oh, that's right, I give these guys $4 a month, and you'll feel good about it the entire time. No downside, all upside.
Exactly. Check local listings for showtimes. It's time for How to Watch. So real quick, got a couple things in How to Watch this week. First of all, ESPN Plus launched last Thursday, $5 a month, built into the ESPN app. You can get it on Android, iOS, Apple TV, Chromecast, Fire TV, and the web. Promising, as we mentioned before, thousands of hours of live sports, soccer, boxing, golf, tennis, rugby, cricket, college sports, starting next season, an NHL game a day, and right now doing a Major League Baseball game a day. Remember, I was wondering, how's that all going to work? Well, I signed up for the 30-day free trial. What they're doing is getting the same deal that Facebook and Twitter got for a digital streaming version of a Major League Baseball game. So it's just the local broadcast. It's not an ESPN broadcast, and they're only streaming it online. So each day you get one of those games, which I think is often the free game of the day on the MLB.TV app as well.
That's brilliant. I mean, all of this, of course, lends legitimacy to the platform. How do you think ESPN Plus is going to shake my gut reaction, which is, oh, this is all the also ran sports. Now, I understand, yes, we're getting here and there, some of the big four, your football, baseball, and all that stuff. But in general, this still feels like the rest of ESPN's offerings.
Yeah, Sarah, I don't know how you feel about this, but to me, I think what ESPN is doing is saying, look, we're not trying to promote a big service. We're trying to have an add-on. And when you are watching ESPN in your app and you run across a thing you want to watch, we'll upsell you then and say, you want to watch
this
that?
Is I would say for the ESPN faithful, of which I am one, this would be $5 a month for all this extra stuff. Do I want to watch a cricket game? No, that's not a sport that I care about. But do I want to watch Kobe Bryant's new series that's going to be running during the playoffs because the NBA playoffs have now started? Yeah, I do. Do I want to watch 30 for 30 and the entire back catalog? Yeah, I do. So that is where I think that, again, it's the original content, right? It's giving you sports that maybe you want. Sure. I mean, that's great. But for the most part, I think it's bundling in original content that people are now associating with ESPN, and ESPN is saying, okay, this is our top tier version of ESPN, which is a complement to the ESPN you already know and love.
Yeah, and we've talked ad nauseum about, ESPN using this as a testing ground and eventually maybe taking what they learn here and making a full-blown ESPN digital-only service. But I think right now it reminds me oddly of what PBS does in the United States, where you can download PBS app, geolocate yourself in the U.S., like, oh, I live in this market. They'll give you a customized version for your market, and you can watch a lot of things for free. But at a certain point, you're going to run into like, oh, I want to watch this episode. And it'll say, oh, that's PBS Plus. And if you want access to that, just donate. And so it's their way of upselling you. They don't lead with that. They say, oh, it's a free app. You can just watch, right? ESPN's not doing it free. They're saying, oh, it's a free app for the subscriber. You just watch. And then you run into something and it's like, oh, you want to add that? Here it is, $5 a month. Boom, boom, boom. Done.
I could totally see that working. And you totally, Sarah, man, I had forgotten or didn't notice that all of the 30 for 30 back catalog being available, that alone would be worth $5 a month, I think.
Yeah. And I think Sarah nailed it. Like the jewels, the crown jewels that you're likely to run across are less cricket games. No disrespect to cricket. Come at me, cricket. I'll take on big cricket. Your wireless service sucks. But you're going to see that OJ Made in America and be like, oh, I want to watch that. Oh, it's $5 a month. Okay, sure. Why not? I'll get an MLB game too. So, Sarah, you recently subscribed to YouTube TV. What brought you to this state?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Tom. So I will dance around this subject a little bit, but I used to have a login to television Say it. You were freeloading on someone else's ride. Pirate. I'm a pirate. I used to be.
Used to be.
The password changed. The era ended. It was all for the best. I'd learned my lesson, and I was like, well, crap. There's like a bunch of stuff. For example, ESPN. Like, oh, now how am I going to watch SportsCenter? This is what I do every night. So I downloaded YouTube TV, and it was like, again, it was like a 1 week free trial. I'm like, fine. There's an Apple TV app, great. And then I'm like, whoa, this is like better than cable for $40 a month. Okay, like maybe I can get back into this. For a little context for anybody, who doesn't know my story, many years ago, back in, 2010, I cut the cord purposely because I felt like I was watching too much garbage. I had too much access to like Bravo TV and just like crappy shows that I knew were rotting my brain a little bit. So I actually wanted to cut back on TV watching, and particularly access to shows that were a little bit too mindless for me. YouTube TV brings it all back. But so $40 a month sounded really great to me, right? Because a lot of people I know, their cable packages are well over $100 a month. My mom, as a DirecTV customer, being one of them, where I'm like, that is crazy. No one should pay that much. Then a friend of mine, I'm talking to him about it. He lives in Phoenix, and he goes, oh, wait, don't pay $40. Be on my family plan, because there can be 3 of us who share the same family plan. We don't actually have to be family members or even live in the same general state. And then we just split it, and all you have to do is, identify yourself with some sort of Google account, like a Gmail account or something, where you identify yourself. And I'm like, wait, hold on. So like for $12 a month, we're just getting a really good cable package with all the channels that, yes, I probably shouldn't be watching all that stuff, but it makes no sense to me that cable would exist much longer after something like this exists, because it's better and it's almost free.
So, and I'll tell you what, it really does feel like we're well beyond the days. It used to be that you could say it was inconvenient to use an over-the-top service. It used to be that you could complain that not everything that you wanted was available on one of these services. It used to be that you could complain about that was the expensive way to go about it, and you could make it work with an all-you-can-eat buffet. Cable stuff, all of that is over with, and instead, stuff like this getting people in with the family program, all that really needs to change now is people's habits, and they just need to let go of their default assumption that you turn on the cable box and you remember what channel a thing is on and what time to show up for it. Instead, now we're at that place where you're like, hey, artificially intelligent female voiced box, tell me when my show is.
Yeah, I was singing YouTube TV's praises, and YouTube TV is not the only option that people have, but I think it's particularly on the Apple TV, because that's where I watch all my stuff these days. It's a really nice experience. A friend of mine was like, "Well, I don't have an Apple TV. How do I watch this?" I'm like, any way you want, like Roku, PlayStation. It's very available, which kind of almost brings me back to the Netflix on Comcast story, where it's like, that's just the cable company trying to fool people a little bit longer.
You know what?
Yeah.
I think that's one of those, it's a seductive thing where it's like, yeah, your kids are always talking to you about Netflix shows. We understand that you're over 60 and you just want, we want to not disrupt your pattern or your routine. We'll add it like a channel. I understand the need to do that. But meanwhile, I am shocked at how often I end up double purchasing content purely out of convenience. That just happened with The Expanse. I know that I'm paying for The Expanse. I know that I've got PlayStation View. I've got Sci-Fi, and it's on Sci-Fi. There's no reason that I shouldn't load it. But if I just click this one button, yes, it's $20, but now I don't have to think about it, and there's no commercials, and I get to watch all of The Expanse, and it's ready to go.
So, Sarah, what are the downsides? What are the things you've been living with this for a while? What are the things that bug you? It can't be perfect.
Okay. You're right. I would say that there are more commercials overall than if I were to go app by app. If I load up the ESPN app or the TNT app or so on and so forth. In general, I feel that I see more commercials than I did before because it's more like the traditional television experience. There's still some sort of that weird ESPN, sort of porno music thing that happens sometimes. But
we're at a commercial break.
Right? The ad space is being sold. And also, the biggest problem is the one that I knew would happen is that I just have too much access to stupid shows again. It's cable all over again. This is what I tried to get away from 5 years ago.
We're taking on all the hot targets. Cricket, Bravo, you're all getting your comeuppance now.
That's right. Yeah. But I mean, besides that, I think it is pretty flawless, extremely affordable, almost to the point where it's like, what? I mean, they obviously just want to get a lot of people on the service, and I expect the price to go up because it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me that you would get literally the cable experience for so little money. But I don't have a lot of downsides, really.
Have you been using the cloud DVR much?
What's that?
Have you been using the cloud DVR much?
No, never.
Okay. That is the thing that turned me off YouTube TV because if they had an on-demand version, your cloud DVR version turned into that, meaning you couldn't fast forward through commercials. This has also turned me against Hulu Live a little bit because they separate the DVR version from the on-demand version. And if you don't go find the DVR version, they'll just play the on-demand version. And I don't know what happened, but I was using the DVR version where I could fast forward the commercials on Hulu Live. And suddenly I got a 120-second unskippable commercial in the middle of my playback. And that has never happened to me on PlayStation Vue. So I have no idea why that happened.
That's not cricket.
No, and I was not saying bravo to that either.
Bravo, that's not cricket.
So that is the one knock on these services that I still have is a lot of them say DVR, but their DVR doesn't work like your DVR does, except for PlayStation Vue. PlayStation Vue's only limitation is 28 days rather than being able to keep stuff for a long period of time. But you can always fast forward through the commercials. So
doesn't I tried a PS Vue trial a few months ago, and correct me if I'm wrong or if this changed, Tom, but aren't there some shows that are blacklisted from being DVR'd that you cannot?
I have not DVR? Run into that in more than a year.
Okay.
When it first launched, there were a few shows that didn't even show. They're like, we don't have the right to show this episode on Lifetime, which was weird. I see less of that now. And I certainly, I mostly record things from AMC, FX, and the major broadcast nets, and I haven't run into any restrictions on that. Your mileage may vary.
Cool. And this was a long time ago for me. So.
Okay, cool. Well, let's, now that we've figured out how to use all this stuff, talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance.
It's all about location.
Under Surveillance.
So Amazon's bringing back The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle on May 11th, and it looks very much like the original Rocky and Bullwinkle.
In other words, savvy, smart, self-aware, postmodern, irreverent, and subverting a bunch of expectations.
I mean, other than being from the 50s, making postmodern feel like it's not really postmodern anymore. Yeah, pretty much.
That's great. Good. I'll tell you what. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but spoiler alert. I watched Lost in Space, and it was great in ways I did not expect it to be. So, in a world that I could be delightfully surprised by how good Lost in Space remakes are, then I'm absolutely a believer if you tell me that we could have a fantastic Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Well, how about this sequel then? Incredibles 2, new trailer out. It arrives June 15th.
A spoiler alert, I definitely rewatched Incredibles 1 this weekend. Made my 5-year-old kid watch it and loved every second of it. And I tweeted out, if Incredibles 2 is 21% as good as Incredibles 1, it will still be one of the greatest treasures in the history of cinema. Like, that movie is so great. It is my favorite Pixar movie, for sure.
Sarah, are you Rocky and Bullwinkle or Incredibles fan?
Oh, everyone's going to hate me, but I have a thing with anything that is based in cartoons that I don't watch.
Okay.
I have never
All right.
seen The Incredibles. I understand that Pixar is not exactly a cartoon, it's some other genre, but the last Pixar movie I saw was Up. I cried a lot. It was too much for me. I won't do it again. And I've never seen Rocky and Bullwinkle. I don't even know what that show's about.
Oh my goodness. I won't force you to sit down and watch Rocky and Bullwinkle, but I will say that you have a real treasure waiting for you in The Incredibles. It's the best.
But people say that about, what was the one where it was all about like the feelings inside your brain?
Oh no, that's a lie. All those people are
Inside
wrong.
Out,
Yeah, those people are wrong.
Coco, everyone said, Coco, it'll change
Coco,
your life, and I'm
hold
like,
on.
I just don't want
Well,
it.
hold on. Coco's
Yeah.
Coco's
Coco,
a masterpiece. Hold on.
They're right about Coco. They're wrong about Inside Out. Also, I'm very pleased with the amount of Bob Odenkirk that I saw in the Incredibles 2
Great.
trailer.
This is a really good trailer,
Yeah.
by the way, for Incredibles 2.
All right. Do you watch Silicon Valley, Sarah?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Are you happy that it's renewed?
It's sort of another hate watcher for me because it's very close to it's very close to home. You know, where I'm just like, a lot of the scenes where I'm just like crushingly realistic. Ugh. But yeah,
Well,
it's funny.
Man,
It has
Silicon
been
Valley, you get in the corner right over there next to Cricket and Bravo. You get over there.
It has been renewed for a 6th season, and HBO also renewed Barry, the Bill Hader series, which I've been watching and think is great. That's getting a 2nd season, and Netflix has renewed Jessica Jones for a 3rd season.
So I did watch the first episode of Barry. It didn't quite take me. It felt a little bit stilted. Does it get more comfortable with itself?
Well, I didn't ever think it was stilted, so I can't tell you an answer to that question.
No, but seriously, when did you stop beating your wife? That's the important question here.
I think you mean, when did she stop beating me? At Checker.
Yeah, you don't talk to the commissioner that way, Brushwood.
That's right. Glenn Mazzara, who Sony announced as the showrunner of a Dark Tower TV series, tweeted last week, "I write in a treehouse. Part of the tree came down. It's like on one of the Dark Tower's beams snapped." Then Amazon's head of event series, Sharon Tal Iguado, retweeted that with the comment, "Our writers take their jobs very seriously. At Glenn Mazzara, hashtag Dark Tower TV, hashtag be safe." We have not had an announcement that Amazon has greenlit a Dark Tower TV series, so that was interesting. And now both of those tweets have been deleted.
Tom, I'm too close to this. This is one I have to, as a would-be journalist, I have to recuse myself because as longtime listeners know, I can't name a single property that means more to me than the Dark Tower. So I'll continue to hope and believe. I hope it's good. Wherever it is, whatever it is.
Sarah, Bravo, Cricket, Dark Tower. Where's
Hey,
it
whoa,
fit?
Don't you do that. They don't belong in the corner at all.
Yeah. All right.
This is a landmine. I'm not touching this one.
Hey, Brian.
I can feel Brian's passion, and I respect it a lot. So I hope that the new series is great for you.
If it's a series, which we don't know.
But
Brian.
I want you to be happy. I do.
Brian.
I've never seen
Brian.
The Dark Tower.
Yes.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Deadline says Apple picked up a TV series based on Isaac Asimov's Foundation books with Josh Friedman, who's the creator of the Sarah Connor Chronicles, and David S. Goyer, who wrote Blade and Batman vs. Superman, as the showrunners.
Tom, I would like to think that our friendship is strong enough to survive the following words. I never read the Foundation series.
Oh, yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. Go read it.
Is it fine?
Oh, you'll love it.
Okay.
You will love it.
Okay.
Tom's like, we're still friends, but now you have homework.
Yeah, okay. All right. Friends with homework. Some are friends with benefits.
That'll-
Some were friends with homework. Got it.
Right.
Friends with the benefit of homework. No, I mean, the running joke, folks, if you're wondering, is we keep hearing about Apple adding these great sounding shows, and okay, we haven't seen any of the shows,
I know.
and we don't know how they're going to distribute them.
We do hear a lot about them.
We do.
Reese Witherspoon, she gets thrown around all the time. She produces everything now. Okay, I look forward to the Jennifer Aniston vehicle.
Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. Okay.
Isaac Asimov. It's a hell of a resume, Apple. Can't wait to see what you do with it. All right. And while we mentioned Lock and Key is still looking for a home for its pilot, AMC has ordered an adaptation of one of Joe Hill's other novels, Nosferatu, to premiere in 2019. Hill is set to executive produce alongside Jamie O'Brien, who has worked on Fear the Walking Dead and Hell on Wheels.
Dude, I hear great things about Nosferatu. I got to read that.
Yeah, I said Nosferatu because of the way it's spelled, but yeah, it's meant to be Nosferatu.
Yeah.
I didn't read this. I've read The Fireman, which I totally want to see turned into a movie or TV series.
I'm sure we talked about this before, but had you read all of Lock and Key yet?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's great. All right, let's talk about what we're watching. Sarah, how many of the Joel McHale shows have you seen?
You got you're laughing. Have you seen the show?
I've seen bits and pieces, and I hear it's great. I hear it's fantastic.
It's very good.
So here's the thing. For anybody who needs a little bit of context, Talk Soup, which became The Soup, which was a very long-running show on the E! Network, starring many hosts, the last one of which was Joel McHale, arguably the best, but, everybody had their day in the sun. When that show was canceled, I was literally crushed. I loved The Soup. The Soup is, it made fun of itself. It was kind of low budget. It was corny jokes, but very, very smart. I knew a couple people who wrote for The Soup as the years went on. Just a great group of folks, and it never made a lot of sense to me. I mean, okay, E doesn't want to pay a big team to make The Soup, but how much could it even cost? It's a green screen, and just I don't know, people in bathing suits and playing little clips of Real Housewives shows. It's my dream show, right? It's my dream show. The show that makes fun of the Real Housewives. Perfect show. Joel McHale's show somehow is lower budget. He doesn't even look like he's showering on the Netflix show. Watch the most recent episode. It's he's trying to look as disheveled as possible. That said, it's the same tone, the same jokes. He has a certain deadpan way about himself that I think is really funny. And I, for one, welcome back the show that I lost all those years ago. I love that show. So
I will start watching more of them. I promise.
I mean, you don't have to. Also I'm just telling you that they're funny.
Have homework. Anything else you've been watching you want to talk about?
Atlanta is getting real weird. I don't know if everyone's caught up on it. I won't.
Oh, I heard the second season really takes it doesn't sound like that much of a thematic departure, but the chatter I've heard has indicated that they take a lot more risks. Is that accurate?
I would say so. It's also very much more of a vignette type of a show where each episode, there's some, there's some common threading and you get to know people and that sort of thing. But I'm finding that the last few episodes are just what in the heck? What was that? They just picked somebody to direct a particular episode that doesn't really feel like any of the episodes that you saw before or after. Great show though. Very clever. I'm a big fan of it. And speaking of vignettes, I also am a big fan of the show High Maintenance, which is all vignettes.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So is that, are they still making new episodes of that? I got all the way caught up through the HBO series.
We're in the end of season 2.
Okay. I think the last one I watched was the one that was all from the dog's perspective, and the dog ends up running away with the hippies. Right? And that's I know, right?
That one hurt. Yeah. Oh, you have lots to catch up on.
Yeah,
There's
great.
a whole other season. It's so good.
Brian, what have you been watching?
Well, I failed in my duty. You know how I make a promise to you that we're going to watch certain shows?
Our service level agreement.
Yeah, well, guess what? I failed. Here's a coupon for $5 off your next Brian Buck.
I don't know how that math works.
I failed to watch Deadwood, and I failed to watch Legion. Part of one is my fault, just because Deadwood, I thought I was all caught up and watched it, but I hadn't, and I didn't realize it until this afternoon. But the other one, Legion, it's there's only so much real estate. That's on the list of stuff I have to watch with Bonnie, and we ended up spending our coupon. Instead, we went and watched A Quiet Place at the movie theater. Spoiler alert, it's great. We'll talk about it in spoiler in time. Second of all, we watched on Bryce's recommendation, Lost in Space. Spoiler alert, freaking great, super good. Or at least the first episode was. And what was the other thing that I watched?
Incredibles 1?
And The Expanse.
Expanse,
and
yeah.
I rewatched The Incredibles 1, which we talked about, yeah.
The Expanse almost makes up for Legion, right? We always watch one currently airing show. Deadwood, that's the one where you can watch it whenever. And so that's, whatever. Like, we'll leave that aside. I totally understand the having to negotiate watching something with your spouse, because the worst time to add something to my list of to watches on Sunday evenings, because Eileen and I generally spend Sunday evening watching things. She has very strong opinions about what she wants to watch. And so if, for instance, like last night, Bryce is like, dude, you guys got to watch Lost in Space. It's so good. I'm always like tense up. I'm like, honey, do you want to watch Lost in Space? She's like, yes. And I'm like, crap. Do you want to watch it now? No. Oh, okay. Yesterday, thankfully, we started watching Coachella, and we were kind of like, this isn't that great. And she's like, you can watch whatever you want. I was like, all right, Lost in Space it is. So we actually got one episode in that.
You were watching Coachella, and she was like, I'd like this more if it was in space, and they didn't know where they were.
No, but watching Coachella this weekend, it was kind of a revelation for me, because I remember a few years ago talking about watching it like, oh my gosh, you could watch it. This is the wave of the future. And I remember even last year I was like, it's still really cool that like there's this event programming that isn't cable TV. It isn't based in any kind of, typical situation. Only cord cutters really watch it. This year, I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, Coachella's on. Go to the YouTube app. Type in Coachella, boom, you put it on. Like, my entire mental framework of watching TV is now app-based. It's no longer channel-based.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. What should we be on the lookout for, Bryce?
Well, I'm going to double down. Brian, you can help me with this. It's Netflix's Lost in Space.
What? Well, this sounds fantastic. If only somebody had recommended it to me yesterday.
So this is a send-up of the original Lost in Space series, following a family who in this one, they get, at least in the first episode, they get trapped on a planet and are trying to find their way to a new planet that humanity can habitate. I think. Yeah, they kind of don't set all the blocks out in this first episode.
I think that's what I love about it is in the original campy 1960s 50s version. Yeah. It's just like it's a family. They're in space. What else do you need? Shut up. Buy cornflakes. Whereas this is. It's fantastic because there's motivation to why it's very clear that that Earth is a bit of a disaster, and they were lucky to get off of it.
And you get a lot of that backstory of like Earth breaking.
Yes,
essentially.
Yes. And plus also families breaking, clearly not getting along. Like they save until about 2/3, 3/4 of the way through. Like, oh, mom and dad are not getting along. They're seriously about to divorce and still making their way through it. And
instead they're going to push on through.
Well, and plus also also Will Robinson is not a wunderkind genius who knows everything. He's forgive my language. He's a dipshit who should not have gotten into the program. But for a favor his mom pulled, an unnamed favor.
There's a lot of drama for what was a schlocky old science fiction show here.
Yeah, right.
And it does like the action and the tension element of it. It also does that really well. Like the first episode has a whole time limit MacGuffin,
right? And
it works really well. There's actual sense of danger. Even like the robot in the first episode is very mysterious. It almost doesn't even look like a robot. That
one moment, and again, we'll talk about all of this during spoiler in time.
During more spoiler in time, where we'll spoil more of the show.
The robot emerges as a very insectoid alien looking design, and there's a great moment
later
when it analyzes Will Robinson, and it does this awesome transformation when it creates a more humanoid form. I loved it. I thought it was great.
A very easy recommendation. I think it's a little heavy on action, but I think you could still watch it with the family, especially if they're a little more mature. But It's really good. And
people in the chat are saying, so it's like the Orville, but in space.
Yeah, Bryce, when you said send up, that kind of conjures comedy. There's nothing comedic about this.
Oh, okay, sure.
But it is a send up insofar as they're subverting all your expectations about it. I thought that was actually a very good turn of phrase there.
I just don't want people to get the wrong impression. Like, it's not that kind of send up.
It's smart.
It is a remake. Like, to put it, it is a remake.
It assumes that you are a person of the 21st century who is aware and has seen these and know what tropes they're subverting with all the smart moves that they're doing.
And as someone who's never seen Lost in Space, I think that they set up enough good questions, and clearly they're setting up characters who were in the original show, and giving it a very giving it their all to really make, okay, this person is going to be a villain, and they give us just enough, especially in this first episode, enough of a loose thread to be like, oh, I wonder where this is going to go and how this could intersect with.
Hopefully, we have something left to talk about in spoiler time.
Yes, you're right, Tom. Apologies.
Please check it out. This is only episode 1, so there are 9 more episodes.
It definitely comes from a place of genuine excitement and enthusiasm.
Because Brian had no expectation that this would be any good, and you've been telling everybody online for the past 22 hours. That's
Correct.
So there are 10 hour-long episodes of Lost in Space now on Netflix. Check it out.
Hey, Tom, if there's one thing I care about more about than Lost in Space, it's the next #1 space-based property, assuming it's still in space. I saw you put out an announcement. You're over the halfway mark on...
Yeah, just this afternoon, past the halfway mark in funding for Trigor, the sequel to Pilot X.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. If people aren't familiar, the way InkShares works, you have to get 750 pre-orders, and that's the slush read. That's the editor approving you. You are my editor. If you're like, yeah, that sounds like a book I want to read, I'll pre-order it. 750 people do that. It gets published. It gets published like a real book with editors and professional cover art and an audio book and all of that. Marketed, put into Publishers Weekly, the whole 9 yards. But to get there, I need people to pre-order it. So getting over that halfway mark is a big milestone for me. So thanks to everybody who's already pre-ordered it. And if a sequel to Pilot X, or even if you haven't read Pilot X and you're like, I just want to have a good story about a time traveler who's hunting down a mysterious object that could destroy the universe in space and visit lots of different planets, some of which may have coffee and or pie, then you should check out Trigor. There's a couple sample chapters up there as well. It's inkshares.com. Just search for TRIGOR.
Man, put that on the cover art. Planets may contain coffee and or pie. Be warned.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of the secondary plot. He's like, please let coffee still exist in this universe.
Yeah, but is there a pineapple planet? And is there any pineapples there?
That is dealt with.
Oh, wow.
That issue is definitely addressed.
I love the fact that you put your coy, you went shields up just then.
Yeah.
In that moment.
So anyway, check it out, folks. Inkshares.com. Just search for Trigor, TRIGOR. Let's move along to the front lines.
Front lines.
Netflix Chief Content Officer Ted Sarandos told Variety his company would pull their films from the Cannes Film Festival after the rules were changed to require a French theatrical release to qualify for the Palme d'Or. There's also a little backpedaling of like, we didn't change the rules. They've always been there. We're just enforcing them. Anyway, French theaters require movies not to appear anywhere else but the theater for 6 months after release. And Netflix pursues a strict policy of premiering movies on their streaming platform the same day they appear in theaters. So
did this decision directly affect, was it Okja? Because I saw on Twitter.
Not Okja. Okja was last year.
Okay, but like, does that mean Okja wouldn't have been able to do it under these rules?
If Okja had been this year, right, it would have been pulled.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's the chatter I was seeing on Twitter. Meanwhile, Philo, the $16 a month service that has networks from Viacom, Discovery Networks, and AMC, will start working on Apple TV and Fire TV this summer. Currently, you can use Philo on Roku, iOS devices, and casting from a Chrome browser. Philo accounts will also start working on individual network apps.
So imagine this, Sarah. Philo, a service with just the trashy programming.
Perfect. Where do I sign up?
Philo,
Actually,
call me wino.
Yeah,
Let's go.
I don't know. I mean, it's sure. I mean, if that's a bundle that you like, it's yet another option. I mean, really, the only the only issue is that we're all crippled by choice at this point.
Yeah, problem with Philo is no sports and no Bravo. Movie Pass is offering a new bundle with iHeartRadio, which gives you I think 4 movie tickets a month and a subscription to iHeartRadio's premium service, all for $30. For $30? Wait a minute.
It's $30 for
it's $30, so it's $10 a month.
It's $10 a month
so
for 3 months.
You pay $30, you get the 3 months, but they're not offering the old service, the unlimited service, while they're doing this offer.
Well, so wait a minute. So right now, if I'm like, hey, Bryce has been talking about Movie Pass, I'm going to sign up.
You only can get this offer, which is 4 tickets a month. You pay 3 months up front. You get iHeartRadio, but not 1 movie every day.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer. It's just a bummer because they keep saying this is a limited time offer. This is the only thing you can get right now while we have it. But we don't know how long this offer is going to last. And as someone who keeps track of like the Movie Pass Club Reddit, pretty much everyone has no idea if this applies to their plan. It doesn't, by the way. If you have Movie Pass, it's not.
It's still not a bad deal. $30 for I mean, like this is not what a math when they say $120 value plus a $30 value,
Sure.
like $150 for $29.95. That's not bad, but you're right. It's a bummer that it's not the thing you want it to be.
It's unnecessarily confusing. It used to be really simple to understand what Movie Pass is, and this is just confusing enough that it will maybe turn people off.
Well, here's my question: what is iHeartRadio All Access? What's that?
That's basically I believe
Like an Apple Music competitor.
Well, it's a Clear Channel, right? It's all of their content without ads, I believe. If you're doing the extended
Yeah,
one.
All Access gives you basically iHeartRadio is a free service that just gives you all the Clear Channel radio stations. All Access removes some ads, gives you some playlists and premium options, stuff like that.
This seems like an odd bundle to me. I don't really get it either.
I feel like it's a way to say,
whatever reason
hey,
you really like Movie Pass and you really like iHeartRadio. I don't know why they would go together.
I feel like it's a way to say, hey, we only need to raise the price of Movie Pass subscription because we've made it artificially low to boost subscribers. Let's do something weird so that people don't go straight from $6.95 to $9.95, and this is it.
Right. Hey, I should talk. Hulu has reduced its price of adding HBO to $5 a month for 6 months. Hulu users can add HBO whenever they subscribe to Hulu Live or not. Hulu's new interface and live TV service has now also been added to 2017 and 2018 LG smart TVs. This year's Samsung Tizen smart TVs and Roku's 3500X streaming stick, as well as the Roku 2. Here's a fun game, Tom. Do you know how you subscribe to HBO? Because I honestly don't know anymore. I don't know if I bought it straight through HBO Now or if I got it as an add-on through Amazon.
Well, if you got it as an add-on through Amazon, I don't think you log into HBO Now. You log into HBO Go, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Well, regardless, how wonderful that I can not know how I get my HBO.
You just get it.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. A service called CPass is in limited beta in London and lets subscribers there reserve tickets for same-day showings of 2D movies for a monthly fee of £9.95, which is about $14. Interestingly, the company says it eventually wants to expand to other events, like music concerts, for instance.
Sorry, it took me a second. I was looking at some bunny ears and realized that I was like, is that Donnie Darko? And sure enough, it is. Amazon is ending its open call for concepts and scripts as of June 30th. Amazon says it's, quote, looking for ways to become even more efficient, or as I like to think of it, quote, now acting like grown-ups.
Yeah, end of an era. Amazon no longer is like, we need to let people know that we develop TV shows and movies. They're like, we got plenty of contacts. Rolodex is full. We don't even use Rolodexes. Nobody does. But metaphorically, it's totally full. So all that stuff about being an open platform, yeah, forget that. They're not that. All right, let's get to the dispatches from the front.
I mean, for what it's worth, that was the right message at that time. I think it was a good play and a good thing to retire.
Dave in Waco says, hey guys, I have a couple of thoughts for you from the last episode. One, thanks for reading my On the Lookout about Miss Fisher's murder mysteries. And yes, I also sent in the On the Lookout for Death in Paradise a few weeks ago. I'm really glad that Tom found it as enjoyable as I did.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, it's my turn my brain off and enjoy something show that I watch probably one every day. Number 2, Dave says the story about 3D fading at theaters is, I think, entirely the result of films being shot in 2D and then artificially made 3D. He talks about how Avatar was one of the few exceptions to that. And 3, he says BBC does need to worry about making too much money. I remember speaking with a rep from the U.S. Naval Institute Press the year after Tom Clancy's Hunt for Red October came out. They mentioned that the USNI asked Clancy to go to another publisher for his next book. The reason USNI might lose their tax-exempt status if they had another blockbuster and subsequent jump in income.
Man, what a great problem to have, right?
Yeah, right? And he says, unrelated to last week, how long do you think those of us who refuse to go near the Apple ecosystem will have to wait for discs of that Foundation series to come out after the series airs that we can then rent on DVD.com? Thanks as always for the great show. Thanks, Dave.
That's actually a really good question. I mean, the short answer is yo-ho. I would imagine that they'll be available quickly.
In another possibly unauthorized format.
Right, correct. Joel writes in saying, hey guys, MoviePass competitor launched recently in Canada called Cinemia or Cinema?
Cinemia.
Cinemia. Got it.
Like cinema.
It's not all-you-can-eat deal like MoviePass, which apparently also is not an all-you-can-eat deal anymore in the U.S., but you could choose from 2 to 3 movies per month for $9.99 billed annually, $10.99 no commitment, or $14.99, $27.99 no commitment. I believe it also works slightly differently. We pick our movie in the Cinemia app, and then it activates the cards for the correct amount. Then we could go online or to the theater, purchase the tickets however we normally would. So you could buy them ahead of time from home. I went with the 2 movies for $10.99. Just got my card in the mail. Took about 4 days, and we'll keep you guys posted. Thank you very much, Joel. Keep us up to date.
Yeah, it's not a Canadian service either. It's available in Canada, but Lamar Wilson is using that service because for some reason ArcLight doesn't work with MoviePass.
Interesting.
And he has an ArcLight theater near him, and it works with Cinemia. In fact, Cinemia's big deal is it says we work with every theater.
Unlike, people playing cricket.
Mm-hmm. Finally, Corby writes in and says, hey, I just listened to the latest episode 215, and in Frontlines, you missed a big point of the declining ticket sales of 3D movie story. The rise of MoviePass is also killing 3D ticket sales, as you can only purchase 2D tickets using the service.
That, I know you're reading it in a sarcastic voice, but that seems entirely plausible to me.
Okay. MoviePass has an estimated 2 million plus subscribers. There are about 1.5 billion 3D tickets sold in 2017.
Million and billion rhyme, Tom. And that means that it could be that.
Also, 3D totals have been dropping consistently since 2010. MoviePass has actually been around that long, but it didn't have its 2 million subscribers until like the last year.
Tom, million and billion sound very much alike. And I'd prefer you not mock me on the show.
I agree. And that's it. Sarah Lane, million, billion. What's your favorite?
I prefer billion to million.
Who doesn't?
But I don't think we can really blame MoviePass for killing 3D, or the decline of 3D, or the trend, whatever it is. I know that I don't like 3D movies, so that's all I have to say about that.
Well, that's all we have to say about this entire show. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Sarah, if folks want to find you, where should they go?
Oh, well, you can find me on Daily Tech News Show. If you haven't heard of it, it's really good. It's a technology show that I co-host with Tom Merritt every day. DailyTechNewsShow.com. And then I'm Sarah Lane on every network in the world.
Sarah with an H, mind you.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. Very important point. Our website is cordkillers.com. Yes. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack and also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We will see you next week.
Hey guys, Brian and Tom here, and it's just the same old message at the end of the credits, just like always.
That's right, Brian. Nothing new here except your name showing up.
Oh my gosh,
because
I've got a
you
name.
just supported us on Patreon.
Yeah, all those $5 donors. Look at that. That's your name in pixels. We're gonna make you famous, kid. Put your
There's
name in
some
pixels on
classic
the internet.
names in there, but some of you are new. Some of you aren't there. It's sad. What can they do, Brian?
I mean, they could go to patreon.com/Cordkillers and pledge $5 an episode and be one of these amazing people, like this one.
Amazing.
Oh, look at that name right there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.